Good evening, guys. Tonight I'm going to be taking a look at the Oris Chronoris Grand Prix 1970s limited edition. Now, this is a watch that was originally produced in 2009. It was limited to 1,970 pieces, and it was made to commemorate the original Oris Chronoris, which they released in 1970 to celebrate Formula One racing. This is a watch that I found recently when I was on vacation. I stopped by a Oris dealer. While perusing their display case, noticed that they had one of these on display. It's a piece that I've sought after for some time. I actually have the prior version of the Chronoris from 2005, and today's video will kind of go over a comparison of the two watches. So first, let's open up this box and see what's inside. You see it comes in a nice cardboard presentation box. Inside is a leather box with a button-down strap. The leather box has green stitching along the top, and that's in keeping with the theme of the watch, as you'll see from the inside. Now underneath is a small tray which contains the warranty information booklets. The warranty card and the service information. So setting that aside, take out the box. So we'll open it up and we'll take a look inside. Inside you'll find, first off, the watch is sitting in a compartment off to the side. There's a fold-out brochure with the limited edition number stamped or written on it, and then the brochure describes their involvement with Formula One racing in the 1970 season. For any race fans out there who are interested. Also on the back of the brochure there's a diagram of the watch, and it goes over some of the key features, but we'll go over those here in detail now. As you'll see underneath that fold-out brochure is a pair of leather racing gloves. This is a special extra that they provide with this limited edition watch. Since I have one available, let's go ahead and compare it to the 2005 Chronoris. Now, the 2005 Chronoris I do not believe was a limited edition. At least it is not numbered, whereas the 2009 version is numbered. As you can see, I'll make a close-up shot of the edge of the case. The 2005 version comes in a much smaller box. Inside is, again, the warranty information, a brief brochure describing their motorsports history, and some basic functions of the watch. And then this one comes in a orange and black leather zippered pouch. You'll see why it's orange and black once I open up the case. So inside the case, the watch is nicely presented. This watch comes with a interchangeable bracelet and a changing tool, as well as two spring pins or spring bars for attaching the bracelet to the watch. Let's take a look at the 2009 Chronoris and compare it with the 2005 version and see what the differences are. You'll notice that both watches share the similar tonneau style vintage racing watch style case. The limited edition watch is 42.5 millimeters. It's made out of stainless steel and it measures about 14 millimeters in thickness. Now, one interesting feature of the case is the crown is secured in a what they call quick lock style design. Now, the quick lock is basically you push in, and like a bolt action rifle, it just locks in place with about, I would say, half a turn. So that's an interesting design feature that's different than most other watches. The upper portions of the case are finished in a brushed radial pattern. The beveled edges and the sides are done in a polished finish. You'll see, as I mentioned earlier, the limited edition number is engraved into the end of the case, just above the strap at the bottom, and it's numbered out of 1970. The chronograph pushers are not screw down. Again, this is not a diving watch, so the water resistance was not a key feature on this watch, unlike some of their divers. This watch is rated, actually both of them are rated at 50 meters of water resistance. So let's get the chronograph running and we can kind of go over some of the features of the dial. So now that the chronograph is running, you'll see that the center mounted seconds hand is the chronograph seconds hand. The constantly running seconds hand is over here on the 9 o'clock side of the dial. At the 12 o'clock position is a minute counter. You can see it has the standard minute counter hand, which points to the top initially, and then it makes its way around for a total of 30 minutes. But an interesting addition that they made was they extended out the back end of the hand, which points down to a separate inner scale, which is a 10-minute countdown timer. So it's just a little addition that has added a whole new complication to the dial, which is interesting. Over here, the orange arrow is the GMT hand, which is independently adjustable. And then down here at the 6 o'clock position is the 12-hour totalizer. Now also there's a small date register at the 6 o'clock position. Now if you look at the outer track of the dial, there is a tachymeter scale. Now taking a look at the strap. The strap is a perforated leather strap with green accents. Again, it's in keeping with the green accents on the dial. It has green cross stitching, which you can see on the inside of the strap. The buckle is a push button deployant style design with a polished sign buckle. When you release it, you'll see there's a perlage finish on parts of the inside. It's a very nicely done design, and basically what this will help is to preserve the leather strap, because you know, obviously with leather watches, as you wear them and buckle them and unbuckle them, they can wear over time, especially on the portions that rub against the buckle. So let's take a look at the case back. So taking a closer look at the movement, what you're going to see is the trademark Oris red rotor, and behind the rotor is the Oris 677 25 joule chronograph movement. Again, this movement is based around the ETA 7754 movement. Again, it has a 53-hour power reserve and a beat frequency of 28,800 vibrations per hour. So now let's compare this with the 2005 edition Chronoris. Okay, so now we're taking a look at the 2005 version of the Chronoris watch. Again, you'll see it shares the very similar style case design, kind of the oval tonneau shape vintage look. Has the same radial brushed finish on the upper portion with polishing along the case sides. It's a very similar arrangement of the pushers and crown, and again it has the same quick lock crown system. The strap is also very similar. It's a perforated leather, this time with orange contrast accents, again in keeping with the dial accents. Now, even though the dial may not look like it, this watch is also a chronograph. Basically, this watch runs the Oris 672 movement, which is the ETA 7750, also 25 joule chronograph movement. But they've simplified the chronograph movement in this case, as opposed to the 2009 version where they added a couple extra features. So what they've done away with is constantly running seconds, as well as the 12-hour totalizer. So all you're left with in this case, we'll get it running so you can see, is the chronograph seconds hand and then the 30-minute counter. So that's a very interesting approach that they used on this watch as opposed to the 2009 watch. Now, again, we'll look at the buckle on this watch. The buckle on this watch is slightly different than that of the 2009 version. It is also a push-button deployant, but it's a dual deployant in this case. Okay, so now looking at the case back, again it has the characteristic Oris red rotor, and behind it you'll see the movement, which is again the Oris 672 slash ETA 7750 movement. Alright, so now looking at these two side by side, you'll see that while the overall case design is pretty much the same, these watches display time in vastly different ways. They're both chronographs, but the 2005 version, the orange one, does it in a much more simplified, easy to read way, whereas the 2009 version definitely adds to the complexity of the dial by adding even extra features to the standard chronograph. Both of them, I think, have a very interesting use of color. I like the colored accents on each and how they're arranged. I like how the color carries through into the straps. One thing I didn't touch on, both of them are using C3 Super Luminova. The lume is actually not that strong on either one. You can see that the lumed areas on the tips of the hands, as well as the small dots on the hour markers, are actually very tiny. So as far as nighttime visibility, they're not the greatest as compared to some dive watches. You know, in keeping with the differences between the two, the presentation boxes that we went over earlier are obviously vastly different. The 2005 non-limited edition version over here on the right comes in a nice zippered case, as well as includes interchangeable steel bracelet, which definitely gives the watch a different look. I'll try and include some pictures at the end of the watch on the bracelet so you get a better idea. The 2009 limited edition here on the left includes a pair of racing gloves, which I guess if you like wearing gloves when you're driving might be a nice bonus, but otherwise probably going to sit in the box. What I find interesting, though, is that even though these Chronoris watches are already several years old, in fact the one on the right is almost 10 years old, being announced back in 2005, and this one from 2009, this retro-inspired styling is something that's still very much in fashion right now, and you'll see other manufacturers coming out with watches styled in a very similar way. So one notable comparison to make is with the Omega Speedmaster Mark II, which is definitely a much more recent watch that has come out. You'll see that the case shape is actually very, very much similar to the Oris Chronoris. Even the way the case is finished with the radial brushed pattern on the outer surface, the beveled corners with the polishing, and then the polished chronograph pushers, even, you know, the use of accents of color on the dial. Now this one, you know, comes on a brushed steel bracelet. Actually, the design of the brushed steel bracelet on the Speedmaster is pretty similar to the design of the bracelet on the 2005 Chronoris, with the exception that the 2005 Chronoris bracelet is more of a polished finish. Okay, here's a wrist shot for you guys. For reference, my wrist measures 7 3/4 in diameter. I think, you know, this watch does sit very nicely on the wrist at 42.5 millimeters. It is probably more of a standard size watch these days. Definitely not, you know, in the trend of the super oversized watch. but not uncomfortably small either, in my opinion. I think it sits well because of the curvature of the case and how it contours to fit the top of your wrist. The leather strap is very comfortable, and I like the deployant buckle release at the bottom. So this is how it looks, and then next I'll put on the 2005 version to give you a visual comparison. Okay, so now I've put on the 2005 version for comparison. This watch measures 40 millimeters in diameter, and even though it's just a couple millimeters smaller than the 2009 version, I think visually it plays much smaller on the wrist. Again, my wrist is 7 3/4. You know, it's not bad. It still has that nice curved contour of the case, so I think it does sit nicely on the wrist. But as someone who wears kind of 45 millimeter watches and higher on a typical daily wear basis, this watch definitely plays much smaller than what I'm used to these days. So to recap, I think if you're looking for a racing-inspired vintage style watch that still has modern movement and a more modern case size, I think both of these Oris Chronoris watches are going to be good options for you to look at. Especially now that they're several years old, you'll be able to find some on the secondary market for much more affordably than when they were new. You may even be lucky, just like I was recently with this limited edition piece, and find some new old stock at some Oris dealers that you can pick up. The one thing about the secondary market is many times some of the extra pieces, such as the boxes, the extra parts and things like that, may not be available. So that's something to look at. But overall, you know, I think both of them have some very interesting design features. They both have very interesting look. I think there's enough differences even between the two that would make it worthwhile, especially if you're a big Oris fan, to have both in your collection. So if you guys have any questions, please feel free to post them down below in the comments section. I'll try my best to answer them. I hope you enjoyed this review, and please stay tuned. I'll try and have some more watch comparisons coming in the future. Thanks for watching.